All right, welcome back. This is the first episode of the Dead Poets Society. I can't do that accent very well. What other accents can I do? I don't know. Anyway, this episode we're going to explore a poem that I'm working on, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on it along the way. Kind of a oh, hold on. What is this up here? Some kind of golf cart. I don't know. There was some disturbance down here earlier. I thought they'd gotten it worked out. Doesn't seem like it from here. Hopefully that golf cart keeps going, because I think they're nothing but trouble. I don't mean to imply that all rich people are, jerks. But these particular golf club belonging to golf cart owning, going down to see the sporting event at the local college by way of City Trail, they were kind of jerky. Well, anyway, the poem is called Kubla, and I've got this theory that every poem has a secret cadence. So if you listen, if you learn the lines of the poem, you will uncover, right? You'll uncover that rhythm, that cadence. And listen, I'm not trying to do a song. And I'm talking about, you can't help but notice that it's not necessarily set up by the way the lines are set up in the poem. So particularly with Kubla Khan, which I'm only into stanza 1. Okay, this is a pretty long poem, but I find it very rewarding in terms of self-study. You don't need to be a Coleridge scholar to understand, and you don't need to be some kind of genius when it comes to nouns. There's some sort of there's quite a few esoteric nouns, exotic nouns. It's a very exotic, it's just the kind of poem that, it's one of the classics, so you maybe feel somewhat put off. Inaccessible, perhaps, at first. Or if you go through once, or have one of our YouTube's many marvelous readers, performers, there's several that I find extremely awesome that I've listened to. People have different takes on poetry, and that's kind of the idea behind Dead Poets Society, is to get in there and, we could talk about the poets, we could talk about the poems, and we can talk about our theories, but I'd rather hear the poems. I would rather hear the poems, so there's no better place than out in the middle of the woods, thank you, on the trail, all alone. Anyway, so let's take a look at it, right? And my method, by the way, is to try to memorize. Once you memorize every word you get in your head, even if you have to sort of shuffle for it, reach for it, get through your memory, becomes a kind of, I like to call them, this is how old I am. There used to be a toy called a Lincoln log. You probably don't remember the Lincoln log. Well, they had little wooden wheels and the wheels had holes in them. And the holes were the perfect receptacle for a Lincoln log, which it just sounds like it's a funny phrase. Okay, it's a funny name, not a phrase. But actually, it is a phrase because you've got what kind of log? It's a Lincoln log. So there together makes up the phrase. It's not a clause. It doesn't have a verb and a subject. Anyway, we're getting off track, and that's okay. So Lincoln logs were these great toys that you could play with. And all you had to do was keep up with the parts. And you could rearrange them, you could connect them in different ways, you could build things out of them. And it looked very much like playing with an eraser and a bunch of sharp pencils or something. You could poke the pencils into the eraser and make like a little dog or something like that with thumbtacks. But Lincoln logs, every time you memorize part of it, you've got a Lincoln log. So this poem really lends itself to that. You sort of rearrange it. And by doing that, I think, there's some fun stuff. There's the observation that the line endings are often not indicators of where you should discontinue reading. Okay, I'll explain. We were talking about clauses. Well, the line endings sort of function as clause markers in some cases. I'll show you what I mean. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree, where out the sacred river ran through caverns measureless to man, down to a sunless sea. Now, you hear that's the intro to the stanza. Oh yes, thank you very much. All from memory. And you can too. And it's worth doing. It is worth memorizing great poetry, especially if you want to be part of the Dead Poets Society. That's okay. You can keep reading the poem until you have it down pat. Some of my favorite poems I've not committed to memory, and that is a shame, and that's going to be rectified. Okay. The B-52s had a song called the Deadbeats Club. Now, in my opinion, the Dead Beats Club is a depressing place to be or to hang out. It's all nostalgia and no substance, nothing you can hold on to. But the Dead Poets Society, now there's something you can grab, okay? Once you become a member, even death can't hold you back, all right? And listen, we're always accepting new members in the Dead Poets Society. Why, some of our favorites are teetering close to the edge as we speak. And of course, once they go, they're never really gone. Anyway, enough BS. In Xanadu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure dome decree through caverns measureless to man down to a sunless sea. How do you say that poem? How do you say those lines? In Xanadu. Of course, along the way, when you're playing with these lines, your Lincoln logs, you can't help but notice the internal rhymes and the similar sounds. I'm lisping. I can't help it. When you're trying to walk and talk and you've been walking, you get a little out of breath and you lose your spittle. Okay. Thus ends the first episode of the test.